We got nothing but Impact.
We watched Impact.
I got a few things to say about this here program.
Now?
No, as we go along, you geek.
That's checking. Don't get hot. So they had the Gauntlet match tonight, which is their fancy code name for a Royal Rumble. All the guys talked about how they wanted to win it.
Just called an over-the-top rope challenge.
Sure. With timed entry. Stretch it out. Aces and Eights came out.
Actually, before that, I got to talk about the Open. So it didn't hit me until I watched their opening recap deal. But Hulk Hogan missed X number of weeks of television, correct?
Yes.
And they said that he had meetings in Texas and he had meetings in New York, presumably with the heads of Panda and Spike Television.
Okay.
So after missing Impact Wrestling Television, which, keep in mind, is the only television show that they air every single week, he missed these television episodes in which he is an important, pivotal character in the storylines. He missed them to have meetings with Spike and Panda. And it just occurred to me that at the end of the day, he returned, and these important meetings involved announcing a battle royal and a championship match.
Mm-hmm. This necessitated him traveling across the country and missing weeks of television.
He traveled across the country to 2 states, virtually as far away from each other as possible in the continental United States, and he came back to announce a battle royal and a title match. What a waste of time! You wonder why this company is not making any money. And by the way, this Aces and Eights coming out to open up the show, I am going to do a quick search right here and find out how many weeks in a row the Aces and Eights have opened up a television show.
I'm going to say at least since Bully Ray joined.
All right. They opened up today.
Uh-huh.
On August 30th, they opened up the show. Hold on 1 second here. I'm trying to figure out a quick way to do this. On August 23rd, would you like to take a guess?
They came out to open the show.
They opened up the show.
Mm-hmm.
On August 16th, would you like to guess?
They came out to open the show.
Actually, believe it or not, no.
Damn it.
Kazarian and Aries and AJ and Hardy had a ladder match. So we have to go back 5 weeks for a segment where they did not open up the show. Sick of it.
Bully Ray, like no one else, I think, in this company gets this business. You will recall...
Boy, do I ever.
That when they signed Brooke Tessmacher, who... a bikini model who appears on sites that reference vertical smiles.
She has, this is not a joke, this is not an exaggeration, this is not a sexist statement, it is a fact that she has an award-winning ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I completely believe you. I know the other women in the company, such as Tara, who is a lifelong fitness model, who has worked on her own ass for literally decades, was still blown away by Tara's ass. When Brooke Tessmacher signed with this company, they proceeded to not shoot her below the waist for months.
And when they did, they made sure she was wearing a long skirt.
A long skirt, yes. So now she's Bully Ray's girlfriend. Bully Ray comes out with her. They hit a pose to the camera. And then Bully Ray looks at her and just says, "Turn around." And she did. And there it was. Good television.
If you think that when I rewrote Death of WCW and I wrote a chapter on TNA that I did not include the fact that Brooke Tessmacher, for the first 6 to 8 months of her career, her ass was not featured a single time, you're wrong. Should have had its own chapter.
Should have been the cover. So Bully Ray sucked up to his men one at a time, talked about how great they all were. When we got to Tito, was putting him over. Mr. Anderson was standing in the corner just fuming. And then it was Anderson's turn, and Ray put him over as strong as he put over anyone else. Then he announced some matches, not like he was booking them, but he said, "Here's what's going to happen on the show tonight. Here's what has been signed, featuring my Aces and Eights men." And that was it. That was the whole segment. Chris Sabin wrestled Nux. So they're having this match, and Hammer got involved. And before Nux could get it, Sabin got it. And then, with the ref looking on, Chris Sabin hit Nux in the head with a hammer. Ref said that's against the rules, and he called for the bell. Chris Sabin, who had just struck another man in the head with a hammer, complained about this decision.
Yes.
What a stupid babyface.
Gets worse.
Oh, it got worse.
This led to a segment backstage where Sabin was having a meltdown. And Velvet Sky, who just last week was revealed to be his longtime girlfriend, out of nowhere, is trying to calm him down. He's freaking out. Unlike in WWE, where they would get to the point and then move on, they just kept going and going.
We both had like 2 lines to say.
Going.
Hers was like, I forget what it was.
Calm down.
Things are going to be okay and calm down. And he said, it's not my fault, and he was going to use the hammer. Or whatever it was. Something like that.
Every time the hammer is involved, something happens. Every time I have a match, there's a hammer. I should be the champion. This goddamn hammer. Every time there's a hammer. On and on and on. He came off looking like a complete madman. They
both said the same. I don't even care about that. I don't care how he came off. This came off as just an annoying, literally repetitive, never-ending segment where they just said their piece over and over and over and over again. And just as I turned to you and said, this sucks, Chris Sabin said, and I'm not making this up, this is crap!
Yep.
Then he walked away, and Velvet asked the question on my mind, what just happened?
Yeah, this was 2 very unlikable people, and they're supposed to be 2 big-time baby faces. This segment sucked. And furthermore, what did you use the goddamn hammer for?
I don't know.
It's your fault, dude!
This promo was so terrible. Mickie James came out for a promo. Talked about going in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Made some jokes about Miley Cyrus. ODB interrupted. They jibber-jabbered. They got in a brawl. ODB beat her up more than once.
Yeah, that's the key. ODB beat her up, clotheslined her. Mickie James took a bump. And then, inexplicably, Mickie James got back up and got in her face again. And then ODB beat her up again!
She tore Mickey's shirt off, and Mickie was humiliated to be stripped to her sports bra.
Yeah, so far this show wasn't very good.
Hernandez and Jay Bradley cut a promo. Okay. They were talking about the Gauntlet, which is the last match in the Bound for Glory series. The winner of the Gauntlet gets 20 points, and these 2, even if they got 20 points, they could not make the Final 4. So they had nothing to gain by being in this thing. Hernandez.
But the key is they explained that Bradley had been paid off.
Mm-hmm.
And so his role in the Battle Royal was to try to prevent someone from winning, which would have put them in the Final 4, which obviously one would presume would be AJ.
I guess.
So, they didn't flat out say it, but that was the idea, that A's and Eights paid him to make sure that AJ didn't win and get 20 points. But, even though they explained what Bradley's incentive was to be in this match, it still doesn't explain why the people in charge of TNA would have put 2 guys in this match who mathematically had 0 chance of making it into the Final 4.
I don't know. They could only ruin things, essentially. So, had the match. They did it in order of points, with the guys with the lowest points starting, which was, in fact, Hernandez and Bradley. Sucks to be Hernandez, by the way. So, Bradley tried to recruit him. Didn't work. They had a fight. Bunch of guys came in. They were doing, sometimes they did 1-minute intervals, sometimes they did 2, and there were a bunch of commercials mixed in throughout. So Anderson, who is the one guy you figure Bradley would want to help, and he may have been dumped by this point, actually, I'm not sure, but Anderson's up on the top rope, and Joe shoves him off, and Anderson takes this bump where he tumbles to the apron and then to his back on the floor, and his head smacks the metal guardrail.
No idea what he was thinking.
Don't do this, guys. Do not do this. No, Bradley was still in at that point, by the way. So AJ hit the ring. He targeted Bradley, immediately dumped him over the top rope. Joe and AJ and Daniels did some stuff together just because. And then finally Magnus came in at number 12, and it hit me. He's the points leader, and the final 4 guys get in. So in a worst-case scenario, no matter who wins this Battle Royal, he's in second place and still makes the final 4. And I guess the carrot on the stick there is that the guy with the most points got to choose his opponent in the playoffs, essentially. So that's what he was fighting for here. But still, I would think I'm in this no matter what. I'm just not going to get hurt in this stupid Battle Royal. I'm not going to wrestle in it. So it came down to AJ Styles, Austin Aries, Bobby Roode, and Chris Daniels. And AJ tossed Aries out, and I thought, well, that's interesting right there, because what AJ has just done is essentially screw himself, because now he has to fight Daniels and Roode, who are a unit by himself. But no, he dumped Bobby Roode 3 seconds later. So it was Daniels and AJ.
Who, by the way, once had a match where they could never wrestle again. But thank God there was this Battle Royal.
Yeah. The wrestled for like 2 minutes. It was really good. It was really fun. And then AJ hit the Pele kick and clotheslined him over to win. Had a great party. Great celebration. Last 2 minutes was really good. Everything before that was totally forgettable.
Well, there's one thing I got to mention.
All right.
First off, when Magnus came in, absolutely no heat. And then later on in the show, when he faced off with Roode, because they're going to be having a match in the Final Four, there was absolutely no reaction to this guy. I don't think they should give up on him, but it's absolutely not working yet. And,
he won 4 matches.
Well, yeah, but he was by far the points leader.
Yeah.
Apparently the people don't take the points seriously, I guess.
And no, and why should they? Because among the many problems with this tournament, the singles matches barely mattered. Because they had a bunch of matches scattered throughout where you could suddenly pick up 20 points at a time. So those were the matches that counted. Single matches were window dressing.
So my other concern, and I'm going to give TNA the benefit of the doubt, but when Mr. Anderson went over the top rope and he smashed his head on the metal guardrail, they brought out the referees to make sure he was okay, and one of the referees stood up and did the dreaded X. Now, obviously in wrestling, there is the real dreaded X and there is the fake dreaded X. But since this didn't play into anything else on the show, I presume the dreaded X was a real dreaded X. So obviously he bonked his head, but the referee was concerned enough to hold up the "he's really hurt" sign. So they do the rest of the show, and at the end of the show, they announce that Mr. Anderson is going to be challenging Bully Ray for the title next week. So if if Anderson really smashed his head, and it was bad enough that he got the dreaded X, then there's at least the possibility that he got a concussion. And if he got a concussion, he absolutely 100% zero chance should he be wrestling next week. But that's the booking. He's supposed to be wrestling next week. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to presume that he did not get a concussion. Otherwise, I'm very disappointed in this company. But I guess we shall see. But the dreaded X didn't look good. And him working again next Thursday on the surface does not look good at all. And I should also note that when he announced at the end of the show that he was going to be facing Bully Ray, that begs the question, has he been in cahoots with Hulk Hogan for the last 2 weeks? Because Hulk Hogan, God only knows why, announced that Bully Ray was going to be facing a member of Aces and Eights at the pay-per-view, or at the No Surrender, which is not a pay-per-view now, it's TV. But he said that one of the members of Bully's family would be facing him, and then Anderson here revealed that it would be him. So are Anderson and Mr. Hogan in cahoots? Will we ever find out? Is the bigger question.
The other key point here is that before the Battle Royal, Jeff Hardy was in 4th place. Then AJ won and passed him, and that knocked Hardy out of the Final Four. So Hardy, by logic, should be a little annoyed at Hulk for booking the stupid Battle Royal after he had rightfully earned a spot in the Final Four.
That's right.
Probably ignore that. Bully Ray and Anderson had a meeting backstage. Bully Ray was pissed at Anderson for losing and not getting into the Final Four. They yelled at each other for a while.
Why is Bully mad, by the way? Why would he want... So at the end of the show, when Anderson announced, "I'm facing you for the title at No Surrender," Bully was all pissed off. But why was he upset that Anderson had been knocked out of the Final Four?
That's actually a good question.
Did he want Anderson to win and then expect Anderson to lay down? Was that what their plan was?
That was their plan.
Huh.
Things change, but that was their plan, yes. And then that was their plan. Then Anderson got lost, so Bully Ray was mad at him, and so Anderson, by the end of the show, decided, screw you, I am going to fight you, and I am going to fight you. So it was not what Bully Ray had in mind. AJ cut a promo backstage. He vowed to win the series and beat Bully Ray, and after last week's disastrous promo, this was heavily, heavily edited.
They should have had a interview with Jeff Hardy, angry that he got knocked out of this Final Four.
They should have, but they're TNA. Rampage and Sting had a meeting.
This is awesome.
Rampage was very confused and could not believe that Sting had lost a title. Sting had lost a match, and therefore could never have a title match again.
Yeah.
This did not make sense to Rampage. Sting's response was, yes, that's true, but that's okay. Because it's not about titles for me anymore. He's beyond that kind of thing. So that was the night he knew he needed a family. That's why he went out and recruited the Mafia, and that's why he was going to beat Bully Ray tonight. So for the record, Sting is happy he is no longer eligible to challenge for the world title ever again.
It led to a better life.
It did. The pressure's off. The pressure's off. It's all just fun and games now. Gunstorm wrestled Wes and Garrett. Had a four-way brawl. Settled down into a tag match. Pretty good when they got the heat on Storm. Gunner made a comeback. It was a little clunky. And there was a distraction involving a title belt they got in the ring. And Garrett hit Gunner with a chain and pinned him. It was a non-title match, and presumably will lead to a title match, but it's TNA, so you just never know anymore. The final four dudes in the Bound for Glory series came out.
AJ wearing a baseball cap.
AJ wearing a baseball cap. He explained that the biggest blemish on his Bound for Glory series record was Austin Aries, who had beaten him. It must have been somebody else who beat him, but it was Aries that bothered him, I guess, because he picked Aries.
I'm sure the other person that beat him wasn't there in the Final Four.
That's probably it. So it's AJ and Aries in one matchup, and Aries said, good luck, and the real winners are going to be the fans. It's a terribly cheesy thing to say. And Rude said he's facing Magnus, and he called Magnus the weak link. He admitted Magnus had beaten him earlier, but said he was a better man now and said he was going to win. And Magnus said he was fighting for his family, and so he was going to win. And none of these promos were particularly original or inspiring. Main event, Sting versus Bully Ray. Hogan came out and Bully Ray came out accompanied by Brooke, Tito, and Anderson.
Yes. Correct.
Hulk came out and ejected Tito, but not Brooke or Anderson.
No, only Tito.
This does lend credence to your theory that Hulk and Anderson were working together. So, Hogan also made the match no DQ. He did some stuff. There were chairs and all sorts of plunder in the ring. Taz passed Bully Ray a knife.
A knife!
Bully Ray used this to stab Sting and kill him. No, that would have made sense. No, instead he cut up the ring with it. Cut up the apron and stuff, the canvas.
Do you remember when they had Tank Abbott and Big Al in WCW? And I believe they were having a pole match. I actually forget the...
There's a leather jacket on a pole match.
That's right.
Yes.
And Tank went into business for himself afterwards and pulled a knife.
Yes.
And swear to God, he pulled a knife and put it up to Big Al's neck, like he's going to slice his throat. This was unplanned. Tank just did it on his own. And then Tony Schiavone tried to explain that Tank is trying to shave Big Al's beard.
Forgotten that line.
Yeah. And guess who didn't have a beard?
Big Al?
Big Al, clean shaven.
That was on pay-per-view, wasn't it?
You got to read this book, everybody.
Tank Abbott versus Big Al in a leather jacket on a pole match on pay-per-view.
Yeah. Can't believe we haven't seen that in this Aces and Eights feud.
I actually do remember one of them. I forget which one it was. The other thing I remember about that match is one of them just stood on the other guy's face.
Yeah.
No leaning on the ropes.
Just stood on his face.
No putting a hand on the turnbuckle. He just put both feet on the man's face and stood there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, there was a knife pulled in this match, but it was not used as an offensive weapon.
No.
Here in this no disqualification match, in which technically you should be able to use a knife. No, he just cut up the ring apron a little bit so he could pull it back. Then he didn't want to stab the guy, but he wanted to pile drive the guy on his fucking head on wood and metal.
And paralyze him.
Yeah.
So Bully Ray then threw the knife to Taz, who noted, just threw a razor blade at me. Taz was the one in the most dangerous entire match at this point. So Bully Ray pulled away the canvas and the padding in the corner. Just the corner, mind you. So everyone in the Aces and Eights except Tito hit the ring to attack Sting, which means Hulk took the time to ban Tito Ortiz from ringside, but not anyone else.
I also loved that all the heels attack Sting, and so of course you're going, well, where are the Aces and Eights? And you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and you wait. Finally, they run down the ramp. And it's like, you numbskulls didn't think that there was a chance with the Aces and Eights surrounding the ring in a no DQ match that at some point they might interfere and you should be ready? What the fuck were they doing back there? They took forever to run out.
You know, I didn't mention here anywhere. I forgot to write it down, but there's a point in the show. They did one of their little 15-minute segments between commercials. And
the sub sandwich?
Nux, Wes, and Guerra were eating sandwiches.
Keep in mind that Nux had just been hit in the back of the head with a hammer.
With a goddamn hammer.
He has an ice pack. Because God knows, when you hit a guy in the back of the head with a hammer, you need to go get some ice.
What am I doing with my life? So, they pointed out to Nux that he had a lot of food in his beard. He said that was dessert. You need dessert for later. And then they all just kept eating.
Not just eating. They were all laughing and glad-handing each other. Nux, big-ass smile on his face, food all over his beard, ice pack on the back of his head, cracking jokes. That's a goddamn good sandwich. This is dessert in my beard. And then the other two are like, ha ha, they slap him on the shoulder. Yeah, this made television.
This wasn't on a taped show.
Yeah.
All right, back to the main event. So, main event Mafia eventually came out. No one, I can't say no one cared, but it's not as much heat as you'd think. Rampage Jackson, no doubt fulfilling a lifelong fantasy, got to hit an axe handle off the apron. They all brawled to the back. Ray teased a pile driver on the wood, but he got backdropped, and Sting put him in the Scorpion. Anderson then pulled out the hammer. He's the only one still left there still. It was down to him and Brooke.
I love that final spot, by the way.
Which one?
I'll go for a pile driver. You backdrop me, and then put on your move. It's our whole finishing sequence.
Yes, it was.
Let's keep it simple.
It was. And effective.
Yeah.
So, Ray's in the Scorpion, and Anderson pulls out this hammer, and he starts to pass it to Ray, but when Ray reaches for it, Anderson pulls it back, and then tosses it over in the corner, and Ray has no hammer. He has to tap out, and Sting wins. So Sting leaves. Sting celebrates and leaves. Anderson grabs the mic and the title belt. He gets in Ray's face and just starts screaming at him, saying he couldn't win a match on his own. Said, Hulk's going to make you defend your belt against a member of the Aces and Eights next week, and it's going to be me. I'm going to kick your ass and take your belt, and I'll be the world champion again. And he did his catchphrase, and the crowd sang along with the whole thing. And I can't say it wasn't annoying at times, but it was a great, fiery, passionate promo.
I think it was the highlight of his entire career.
I think it was the highlight of the show for sure. Yeah, it was a great promo. And honestly, the best thing on the show. Yeah, and I think for right now, I'm more excited for that match than I am for the actual Bound for Glory finals.
I'd have to go and look at Mr. Anderson's wiki here. to kind of look back over his career, but I'm pretty sure that this would have to have been the best performance of his career. If somebody can find something better, I guess actually he had that cage match with Kurt Angle, which was really awesome.
He's had flashes before.
Yeah, this was a great one.
This was a great promo.
Yeah. We'll see if he can back it up in the match.
Yeah.
It's another story entirely.
But that was Impact.
Yeah, that was in fact Impact, everybody. Yeah, the main event angle I thought was really good. I thought the Mr. Anderson turn was very good. I don't know if he was the original choice or if someone else in Ace and Eights who, actually I think it probably was when they had, who's the other guy besides Nux? The other big guy? Doc? Yeah, I think this was probably originally going to be Doc's role, but after Doc got the hell out of Dodge, they gave the role to Mr. Anderson. But hey, Mr. Anderson, I said it last week, I'll say it again, he has been great in his role. He's been great in his backstage segments. He's been a great actor. He had a great promo here, and hopefully he can have a great match next week. I don't expect him to win the title or anything like that, but which actually is funny because you do a slow build for all this time, then he gets his championship match the next week and doesn't win. I don't know. It seems like that'll kind of kill him dead. What's he going to do then? He's not an Ace and Eights anymore. He's just a guy who didn't win the belt. So we'll see if they can make it work. But that was good. And there was some good stuff in the Battle Royal, and a few good backstage segments, but overall not the best Impact of all time.
Well then, let's get going. The show opened with a long video hyping the final four guys in the Battle for Glory series, then another long video hyping the Bully Ray versus Mr. Anderson match. Ray came out with Brooke for a promo. He said he was willing to forgive Anderson. He says it was all Hulk Hogan's fault and called out Hulk. Hulk came out. They jibber-jabbered for a while. Anderson came out. Hulk offered him a handshake, but Anderson blew him off. Then Ray offered Anderson a chance to apologize. And instead, Anderson punched him, said he would win. Hulk, for no particular reason, made it a last man standing match.
Yes.
It was a TNA opening promo segment. Austin Aries versus AJ Styles.
Weakest match on the show.
Not in the same universe as the match they had last month or whenever that was. They did announce the 1 hour Bound for Glory pre-show would be live on Spike.
Live.
Which seems like a pretty big deal. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
I think they've done it before. I don't know if they've done it live.
Have they done it on Spike?
Well, the pre-show is always on Spike, yeah.
Oh, well, then never mind. I guess it's not a big deal at all.
Well, if it's live right before the show, it's a pretty big deal.
And maybe the pre-show would have been a bigger deal. I've been watching this company literally since their birth, and I did not know they were doing pay-per-view pre-shows on Spike.
Well, they don't always, but I think they did do a pre-show before Bound for Glory next year, and if I recall correctly, nobody watched it.
I see.
I could be wrong.
So this match, it was long. They did intros, then a commercial, then they wrestled, then did another commercial. AJ took a bad bump off the apron. Towards the end there, they found some creative ways to counter each other's big moves, and then they did the scariest finish I've seen in many a day. They're up on the top rope, both of them, or they're up on the ropes anyway, and they're trading punches and stuff, and AJ grabs him and he hooks him for a Styles Clash, and you have to understand, AJ was standing in the middle rope facing out, and he hooked Aries in essentially a pile driver position. Then he jumped backwards and dropped into the Styles Clash, and that was in fact the finish. If he had fucked this up, fatality for sure. But he didn't. Aries is alive. AJ won.
Yeah, it was a decent match where both guys just looked like really tired. It just was missing something.
Timing was off.
I don't know what the deal was. But Styles, the finish was awesome. I will say that. But I do think this was the weakest match on the entire show. And by the way, the Bound for Glory pre-show last year was live, and it was on Spike, and it did less than a 0.3 in the 18 to 49 demographic, and we never got a rating, so nobody watched it.
Okay.
But they tried.
Sting tried to give Magnus a pep talk backstage. Magnus politely, but essentially blew him off and said he knew he was ready for tonight. Sting and Joe were impressed. They showed some members of the St. Louis Rams in the stands, including Bothell High School's own Johnny Hecker.
About that.
I think he's the only one. He's the punter. Bobby Roode versus Magnus. It was a good TV match. It was better than AJ and Aries, but that's about it. My impression out of this was how it's not just the Magnus won. It's Magnus hit all of his moves. And true, Roode was able to survive them. He kicked out of the elbow. He escaped the cloverleaf. But then when Roode went to try his suplex, Magnus escaped it immediately and hit a jackknife cradle for the win. So Magnus hit everything, and Roode got nothing towards the end. At least nothing of consequence. So Magnus won.
Well, he did completely obliterate him early.
He got the heat early. It's Magnus versus AJ in the finals. Roode threw a tantrum backstage. Kazarian and Daniels tried to calm him down, and Roode declared that if they were not going to the finals, then nobody was going to the finals. Hulk was backstage with TJ Perkins in his Manic costume, holding his mask, and in hindsight, why?
You mean why?
He was not on the show.
Well, he was asking for a match next week.
So he walks around in the costume to ask for matches, even though everyone knows it's not really him, or everyone knows who it is?
Yes.
That's stupid.
Hold on a second. Everybody, when they show up, they know that the show can be booked on the fly. So the first thing they do is they put their gear on. Mm-hmm. Same thing on Raw. When is the last time?
That's true.
It has been brought up on our board many times. When's the last time you saw Randy Orton in pants? When's the last time you saw Randy Orton in anything other than his gear?
Been a while.
He always wears his gear.
Been a while, yeah.
Although, if you watch his documentary, there is footage of him walking around backstage in sweatpants, and it'll blow your mind.
I just remember the scene. They had some time to fill in that documentary. And one of the ways to do this is the scene where he lays out the trunks that are black with blue trim, and black with green trim, and black with red trim. And he tries to pick what color he's going to wear tonight.
This takes, I swear to God, like 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's a monumental decision.
Slowly lays them out. And in a very...
It's like he's buying a car.
It is. He contemplates each color quietly in a stoic manner.
That's the key. He's not saying or doing anything. He says blue, red, green. He looks at them.
Yeah.
Time passes.
It's amazing.
And he finally says, going with green. That was a great scene.
The life of Randy Orton.
That's like the only thing I remember from the documentary is that scene. Anyway, Manic, the whole gimmick is stupid. They explained that when he puts the mask on, it's the same thing as Hulk Hogan hulking up. Then Dixie came in and they kicked him out of the office.
Get out of the office, you geek.
Yeah, loser. Dixie said that Bellator's lawyers had pulled Tito and Rampage from the show. Hulk's reaction to this, I swear to God, was, good. I'm good with that. If he didn't want them on the show, why was he putting them on the show?
I just love this storyline. You're using them, but you really shouldn't.
They did plug the fight. Bully Ray cut a promo on the few remaining members of his gang. Once so mighty, now so tiny. Accused them of all being on Anderson's side, but he said he was proud of them and he hoped they would be proud of him. Had a very dramatic Bully Ray, Mr. Anderson type video. And finally, it was time for the match. Anderson is still wearing his Aces and Eights gear and still using the Aces and Eights music. It came out. It brawled everywhere. Bully Ray tried to hide behind Christy Hemme. Failed.
No, it didn't. Huge success. Titties everywhere.
I see.
This outfit she was wearing. I, honest to God, don't know how she didn't fall out when he was grabbing her. And she looked like she was trying to get away, so she didn't fall out because he was grabbing her. Slit right down the middle.
Yeah, she's not shy.
It is amazing.
So they brawled everywhere, brawled over by the announcers, and did some stuff with a chair, set up a table, but didn't get used. It ended up sitting in the corner forever. So Bully Ray starts getting in Hebner's face. And he backs up into the corner trying to intimidate him. And Hebner fires back, and he puts his finger in Ray's chest, and he's shouting at him, and Ray backs off. And then Earl turned around, and in hindsight, I don't know why, because nothing was going on in the corner. But Bully Ray shoved him into the corner, and Earl stumbled into the buckles and then collapsed like a dead man. He was killed.
He's old.
He is old. You've got me there. That's a great point. He is old. So Ray turned around, and Anderson hit a mic check onto the chair, but there was no ref to count here in this last man standing match. He screamed at Earl to wake up. Eventually, he lifted Ray up, I guess, to hit him with a move again, but Bully cut him off, hit a cutter under the chair. All the other Aces and Eights dudes came out. They eyeballed both men. They helped Anderson to his feet, but then Brooke ran in and low-blowed him. And Ray ordered them to finish him off, and so it's Nux, Garrett Bischoff, and Wes Briscoe, 3 dudes. What's the one move they choose to finish this guy off with? A triple powerbomb.
No.
This looks very
the Shields
familiar.
move? Come on.
This looks very familiar. Then they left. Like I said, that's not true. They were there at the end. They left the ring. Crowd really didn't care about any of this, although when Anderson, after that move, still got to his feet, then they were suddenly cheering for him. Up to that point, really, they had not been into it too much. So he kept getting up from everything. He made a comeback, but got cut off. He got hit with a chain, but he got to his feet after that. And finally, Ray speared him through the table. And Taz, the Rams were at ringside, so Taz said it was just like a couple of great Rams players, Jack and Jim Youngblood. Now, Brian, I know you don't know this, and in fact, I had to look it up. I knew who they were. They have not played for the Rams since 1984.
Wow.
Yeah. That's Taz's time frame. So, anyway, this spear through the table won the match. Anderson could not get up. He could not answer the 10 count. He was knocked out. Ray was the last man standing. And they put a neck brace on Anderson, strapped him to a board, stretchered him out, and then Ray chased them all away, knocked him off the stretcher, and hit a pile driver on the stage. So Anderson is dead.
Were you playing checkers during this match or something?
No.
I thought this was the best match on the show. I thought this entire thing was fucking great. I'll praise it before I nitpick. Anderson was awesome during this match. Bully Ray was awesome during this match. I thought the crowd was totally into the match the whole time. Got into it even more at the end. Anderson gigged after the chain shot, bleeding all over the place. The destruction of Mr. Anderson and the post-match pile driver. This is a classic, old school, kill the guy beaten. He's going to be out for a while, and then he'll come back vowing for revenge. I thought this was absolutely awesome. Now, the negatives. The next segment was a promo with Gun Storm to set up a match with Chavo and Hernandez next week. Why the fuck did we need that on this show? They have Mr. Anderson fighting his ass off. He's nearly killed by this triple powerbomb by the Shield. He fights back valiantly. The place is going absolutely nuts. He refuses to give up. He fights and fights and fights, gets hit with metal, bleeding all over the place, finally put through a table with a spear, goes right through the table like it was brutality. Just awesome. He's finally killed. Can't make the 10 count. Bully Ray, after they put him on the stretcher and they neck brace, are taking him out of the place. Bully knocks him off the stretcher, which actually looked like the most uncomfortable bump all night. Pile drives him on the ramp. The dude is dead. This was a big fucking deal. And what do? They immediately cut away. And when they come back, do they recap this whole thing? Do they recap this awesome segment? Do they show a replay of all this cool stuff that happened? No, they go to Gun Storm doing a promo. That was stupid. My other nitpick, and this actually infuriated me. So, Earl Hebner, who granted is old, is yelling at Bully Ray, and then he turns around, and Bully Ray shoves him, and he goes face first into a turnbuckle, and as noted, dies. So, Anderson has the win, but the referee is down. Right?
Yeah.
So, you guys didn't have one single fucking replacement ref in the whole building for a world championship match? No other ref could come down to save the day when Earl Hebner had been killed? Maybe I wouldn't be so mad about it if not for the fact that in the main event, you had guys run in during the match, and what immediately happened? Like 5 refs ran down.
That is true. I hadn't thought about that until right now, but you're correct.
So, yeah, that pissed me off. But other than that, this was a fabulous segment. I thought it was the best thing on Impact in a long time, and I think this has been the best run of Anderson's career. He's been great on his promos. He's been great in segments. He had a great match here. Everything about this was great. So, way to go, Mr. Anderson. And obviously, Bully Ray has been awesome. But I thought this was the best thing on the show, even better than the main event, which was very good.
It was followed actually not by the Gunstorm promo, although this doesn't change your point. The first thing they showed was the ODB promo.
Oh, God. Again, did we need this?
No. ODB cut a promo backstage saying she had not been champion in 3 years, said she would win the title next week, then she grabbed her breasts.
I just don't understand when you put something together as good as this Anderson Bully Ray deal, and you actually shoot a big angle, that you would cut away and never come back and recap it. You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to remember this in 2 weeks now, when it could have been something that they remembered until after Bound for Glory, and maybe for a while. But nope, it was to the back. Which, in fact, what was that show we reviewed on Tuesday?
The Reverse Battle Royal?
The Reverse Battle Royal show? Twice in that report, I noted that they went to the back!
They always go to the back.
They hadn't done it a lot of late, but this was a terrible example of to the back.
All I know is I am often, when typing Impact, as one segment is going on, I am finishing typing my notes on the prior segment. That almost never seems to happen with WWE.
No, and it happened on the show. I even wrote that down. It was they had Hogan and Manic, and then Dixie came in, and then they cut to Bully with aces and eights, and it was like 3 talking segments in a row. Bam, bam, bam. And if someone doesn't have time to take notes, then you screwed something up. That's my theory. A person should be able to take notes on segments, and if they don't, you're bombarding with the audience with too much information.
Yes, it's overkill. So then Gunstorm came out. They said they wanted a match Bound for Glory, but they needed somebody to fight. Chavo Hernandez came out to talk some shit. Chavo says Storm was a great tag team wrestler, but not as good as himself. Said Gunner was big and strong, but not as strong as Hernandez. So Gunner said, let's have a non-title match next week, and if you beat us, then you can get a title match. The Mexicans said, okay. And it's time for the finals. It was AJ Styles versus Magnus. Early on in the match, the crowd began to chant yes, and the director cut away to focus on them.
Oh, God.
You idiot.
Just baffled sometimes.
So about 4 minutes in, out comes Kaz and Daniels and Rude.
Ego
is their name. They beat up both dudes. So you think, okay, they have accomplished their mission. They have determined that nobody was going to make it to the finals, or nobody will win the finals, I guess. Then they go to break. When they come back, Ego is gone, and the match is just still going on.
Thank God for them refs.
They accomplished nothing. They went back and forth, had all their big moves. Crowd was way into this. I thought this was the best match on the show. AJ used a triangle choke, which Taz called a stump puller.
Taz. You know what's even more amazing than when he called it a stump puller? When he called it a go-go plata. Because, in fact, there is such a move as a go-go plata. Uh-huh. I guess he would know it because Undertaker does it. But how could you know what a go-go plata is, but not be able to identify a triangle? It's completely baffling.
Even I said, isn't that a triangle?
It's completely baffling. I wonder if AJ's doing like MMA training or anything like that. Because he actually applied, by wrestling standards, he applied a very good triangle. Usually when guys in wrestling apply triangles, they completely suck. But AJ was trying very hard to apply this triangle correctly. I was very impressed. At least by him.
So they ended up having an epic brawl on the top rope. And AJ knocked him to the mat with a series of elbows. And he went up top and hit the spiral tap, which he has not used in a long time. The spinning, I think it's a 450. I think it's a flipping, spinning dive. And he landed on the guy, and he got the pin. So he wins the Bound for Glory series this year. He had an epic celebration. Magnus was on the apron, looked like he was ready to cry. They pointed out he had put together the big lead in the standings and then failed to win.
Great.
AJ cut a promo celebrating his win. Talked about his shitty promo from a few weeks back, although that's not quite how he described it. And he said Dixie Carter had not responded to him since then. And if she did not get a hold of him next week, I'm not sure what's going to happen. But he wants to talk to her. And that's how the show ended. He
said that he had dropped some bombs, and the biggest bombshell was to come next week.
I see.
And I've got limited spoilers. I don't know exactly what was talked about, but it sure as hell sounds to me and I could be wrong, everybody, it sounds to me like the storyline they're doing is that AJ is on his way to the biggest show of the year where he's going to get a championship match, and they haven't bothered signing him to a new contract, and he's working without a deal. Are you kidding me? Their own incompetence is now a fucking main event storyline?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, I was thinking about this today. I know some people are listening to this and they're going, Bryan, my God. Yes, the referees ran it in the main event, but you're overthinking this when you ask why the referees didn't run it in the world title match. Nobody in the world thought about this except you. You know what? Maybe you're right. I was thinking about this today. Remember when we were kids? Do you remember Star Wars?
I'm familiar with it, yes.
Yeah, and The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. I was really into those movies when I was a kid. And I remember that you could buy books and they would talk about the storylines of these movies and they would point out problems in the storyline. Do you remember this? Is it just me?
Not for those specifically, but there's always been stuff like that.
Yeah, but you remember that, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, your favorite movie is The Land Before Time. Well, do you remember that the dinosaur in the first scene had 4 fucking
continuity errors and stuff like that?
Yeah, that was what it was about. It was pointing out continuity errors.
Okay.
And when I was growing up, it was like a big fucking deal. If you had a movie and there were continuity errors, it was a big fucking deal that you had those. Like, where the hell was the guy who was going to take care of that shit? And apparently, I don't know if it's just a new generation. I'm an old man now. Maybe I should be having a midlife crisis. But sure shit seems to me like nowadays nobody gives a fuck about continuity errors. And maybe I should just stop worrying about it. But it sure fucking bothers me. It really bothers me when I see stuff like that, and it's like, with a little bit of thinking, you probably could have not had that. And believe me, I'm not just picking on TNA, because this shit happens in WWE. It happens all over the place. But it seems to be something that really started right around the time that one Vince Russo got the book. That's when shit really fell off a cliff. And it seems to me that we have an entire generation of mostly these young writers in WWE have no clue what's going on. But you have a generation of writers that have come up, and to them, that's what wrestling is. Shit don't have to make sense. It's wrestling. But really, at the end of the day, back when people really did care about wrestling, this continuity shit really mattered. Same thing with movies and everything else. So yeah, it does bother me that there were no referees coming out during a world fucking title match to try to get a winner, but then all of a sudden you got 8 referees running around and they're all ready to go when someone runs in for the main event. Now, with all that said, I thought this was a great Impact. If you have it on your DVR, I'd watch it. AJ and Aries, probably a little better than I gave it credit for being here. But Rude and Magnus was good. Anderson and Bully I thought was awesome. And AJ and Magnus was pretty awesome as well. So, a good show. A very good show. And we'll see what they do next week with... that's right, everybody. Dixie Carter's going heel. That's what we were missing.
Really?
Was a heel GM. Yeah.
Heel Dixie Carter.
Heel Dixie Carter.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Magnus was cutting a promo backstage about losing the Bound for Glory finals. Bobby Roode walked by. They talked some smack. And then Ego laid out Magnus in a 3-on-1 attack. Then immediately, Magnus came down to the ring for a promo. None the worse for wear after being beaten up by 3 men. He congratulated AJ on his win, wished him the best at Bound for Glory, said Ego had interfered in the match. They had attacked him backstage just now. He wanted to fight them. So they came out one at a time, and he fought them off for a while, but there was 3 of them, and they overwhelmed him until finally Samoa Joe and Sting in the ring to make the save, and Sting challenged them to a 6-man tag.
You know, the thing that started here and just continued throughout the show is these fans were so tired. You know what I mean? Like, the idea of going on the road is good if... because the idea was we go on the road, we go to all these new markets, we're going to get all these excited fans that have never had an Impact taping before, and it's going to be great. And sometimes that is the case. when they're actually sort of live. But once you've done the first show, and then you get into the second show, these fans are tired. And he came out here, he made his challenge, Kazarian ran out, the fans were just tired, and then Daniels runs in, and there's just no heat, Rude runs in, and the fans just were, I mean, they'd seen so much in the first taping. They saw the finals of the Bound for Glory tournament, they saw last week's show, which had a lot of good matches, and it was just hard for them to get into this thing, so I don't know. I don't know what they can do.
We had a segment backstage with Unmasked Manic, Chris Sabin, and Velvet Sky's amazing dress. She was a vision on this evening. The idea here was that Sabin was wishing Manic luck, but at the same time being kind of a douche about it, and also taking credit for putting the division on the map in the first place and winning the belt multiple times and being a giant star. So Manic kind of blew him off, walked away, and Sabin said, "Come on, Velvet, let's go watch this match."
All I know is my notes read, Velvet's boobies.
It was an amazing dress.
And Sabin did, in fact, turn heel somewhere. I don't even know where or when.
Last time we saw him, he was having a tantrum in a god-awful segment with Velvet.
He was very angry.
This was a zillion times better. In this segment, and then the match that followed, I talked for many times this summer about what a horrible babyface Chris Sabin was, what crappy promos he was cutting. He was more entertaining in these two segments than anything he's done, I think, in 2013. He was.
I heard you say that, and I think that he was really good when the match where he won the title. I thought he was good, but as far as like promos and everything like that, yes, he was. He was 8,000 times better here than anything else he's done this year.
He was way more believable and way more entertaining.
Yes.
And also, I'm not sure how this happened, but he looked a good 50 years younger as well.
Well,
so maybe
well, he's hanging out with Velvet.
Well, that too, but maybe just the pressure having to pretend to be a babyface was wearing on him. He always looked old when he was, this summer, and then here he did not. So it was Jeff Hardy versus Manic, and Sabin was out there. He was cheerleading in a mocking style, trying to get the fans into it. And I always love watching Jeff Hardy wrestle X Division matches because you think of Jeff as a high flyer and the underdog and the scrappy underdog. Then he gets in there with someone like Manic and just towers over them. He's enormous compared to these tiny men.
My favorite part of this match was when Sabin came out and Taz called him a stumble bum.
He was not impressed with Sabin's his outfit. His wardrobe. Especially because Velvet was out there dressed to the nines. This was as nice as Velvet Sky could possibly look. And Sabin was wearing like
he was dressed like a stumble bum.
A stumble bum. A beanie, unshaven. So, had a match. It was fun. Hardy won clean with a senton. Sucks to be the X Division champ.
Yes.
Sucks to be anyone else in the X Division, actually. Sabin got in the ring, still being a giant douche. And he raised Manic's arm and then attacked him and laid him out. And Hardy made the save, and Sabin ran away because he is small and Hardy is big. And Sabin was on the ramp and just started shouting randomly. Sabin ruled here. He was tremendous.
I don't want to get on the announcers, especially after the deal last week with the monitors. But, and it really isn't even probably Mike Tenay's fault, because I'm sure they kind of tell him what to say. But Mike Tenay on the show was just, you gotta have credibility as an announcer. And again, I'm sure they write things down for him to say. They have key things for him to say. But he's talking this match about how highly competitive it was before Manic lost. And it was like, no, it wasn't. He sold the whole time. He had a couple of comebacks, and then he got pinned clean by Jeff Hardy. And there were a couple tonight where I don't know. I wish, I'm even asking for like this in announcers in 2030. It's just a different business. But your announcer should be somebody where you believe everything he's saying. And that way when he sells you on a pay-per-view that I've got to see this pay-per-view, you're like, okay, I got to see this pay-per-view. That was like Jim Ross's strength everybody always talked about was if a match was bad, he would call it bowling shoe ugly. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, that was the obvious one. There's a few. I think it was the notorious Jackie Gata tag match.
Yeah.
It was his worst match of the year one year, I believe. But I think it's that one. But there was a point where somebody pinned someone to win a match, and Jim Ross loudly and passionately declared, "Thank God it's over."
I just don't like when I watch a match, and with my own two eyes, I can see that the X Division champion had a match. It went like 2 minutes, and you got beaten clean. And then an announcer is trying to convince me that, in fact, it was highly competitive, and I shouldn't be concerned about this guy losing. I just don't, I don't know.
Mickie James wrestled ODB.
Mm-hmm.
They had a fun match. I did not do a good job. The match deserved a better recap than I gave it, quite frankly.
Let's listen to your recap.
All right. ODB made her big fiery comeback by roaring defiance and grabbing her boobs.
Yeah, that's true.
That is begging to be an animated GIF. They went back and forth a bit, and then ODB won with a TKO. A good TV match that I have done a shitty job recapping.
Well, yeah, it was better than that.
Yeah. So ODB won. She's a champion. Mickey's not. Then things got weird. Eric Young came out to celebrate, which makes sense because he's married to ODB. Joseph Park was also there, drinking chocolate milk out of the bottle.
That was the part that I couldn't figure out because Joe Park and Eric Young have been buddies.
That's true.
You know, so I was okay with Joe Park being out there, but then Joe Park's out there and he's got this big thing of milk,
chocolate milk.
And I was like, why are you drinking chocolate milk? Did I miss like 3 weeks of television where all of a sudden you became like a chocolate milk drinker? Hey, I like chocolate milk and all, but I was baffled.
So then Robbie E. and how's the other dude? Jesse. The romance appeared here. They asked the question that was on my mind. Joe Park, why are you here? Went back and forth for a while, and it led to Eric Young challenging Robbie E. Then Eric Young pinned Robbie E. in seconds with a schoolboy. Mm-hmm. Then Robbie E. challenged Joseph Park. They went to commercial. When they came back, Joseph Park pinned Robbie E. in seconds with a schoolboy. Then the bromans laid out the baby faces. They hit Eric Young with what I wrote as their finisher, although how I know it's their finish, I don't know. I don't think they've ever won a match. But they hit a move.
Well, they did it together, so we presume it was their finisher.
They did a double team move to Eric Young. They nearly scooted up. Eric Young then sold this move by flopping on the ground like a fish, perhaps one of the fish he had caught on his show.
Yes.
Abyss was bleeding. He got thrown into the post. Joe Park was bleeding after being thrown into the post. He made the big Abyss comeback, and then the heels bailed, and then Eric Young was happy. Joe Park helped him out. I watched at least a month, probably 2 or 3 months worth of storytelling and angles here, and seriously about 4 minutes of actual television time. It was bewildering. And it all started with ODB versus Mickie James.
Yes. To talk about the crowd here, the crowd was not dead. They were like cheering during the match. It was one of those deals where they're cheering, but when you actually look out at the audience, everyone's just sitting there quietly. So I'm thinking there might have been a little bit of crowd sweetening in this particular battle. But yeah, somebody explain the milk to me. I don't get the milk.
It is delicious.
It is delicious. I've been having, they have now at the store is
protein enhanced chocolate milk.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know she had some of that.
They lower the sugar content and they increase the protein content, and it's chocolate milk. So it's not exactly like, for example, drinking a muscle milk. In fact, it's very different because muscle milk actually contains no milk, which is the funniest labeling I've ever seen. It says that right there on the front of the label. Muscle milk contains no milk. But anyway, it's not quite muscle milk. But when you think that you can get like a gallon of it or whatever, a half gallon, whatever the square cartons are, and get a square carton of it for like, $2.50, that's a pretty good deal.
I tried some of yours, and it's not... It's
good.
It's not as sweet as... It's like halfway in between Nestle Quick and a protein shake.
Yeah. It's good. I'm a big fan of this protein-enhanced chocolate milk.
Hulk Hogan wanted to talk to Dixie Carter about AJ Styles. She blew him off, said she had things under control. That was Hulk's only appearance in the show.
Mm-hmm. $35,000, everybody.
That's what he made for the show?
Well, we were just discussing that the other day with Dave, and his appearance fee is $35,000 per show, but this was 2 shows, so technically he made probably $17,500.
I see.
For that appearance. But yes, that seems like a waste of money.
The Aces and Eights came out. What's left of them?
4.
Four
For those
dudes,
of you keeping track.
4 dudes and a girl.
Aces and 4.
Let's talk about the girl. Brooke Tessmacher. I know I'm prone to hyperbole and outlandish statements. I think in this segment, she was the hottest woman that has ever been in a pro wrestling ring.
Well, you're a child of the 80s. She was wearing leather.
She was wearing chaps.
Assless chaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your wife walked in and asked, are they also vaginaless chaps? Because she had a large belt on that was covering her small bikini bottoms.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of Brooke here.
Actually, my wife's favorite line of the evening, or my favorite line, was when Bully Ray does his, do you know who I am? And she calmly said, no. And it's true. She has no idea who Bully Ray is.
So, Ray bragged about his win. Said he owed it all to one person who stood beside him the whole time, and it was Brooke.
Oh.
And this pissed the guys off. Felt Ray was not giving them credit. So one by one, they voiced their concerns. One by one, Bully Ray backed them down. And finally, Nux got in his face, and he got in Nux's face and threatened to knock his head off. And Nux just removed his beanie and dared him to fight. And Ray grabbed Brooke and said, come on, let's go.
Yep.
So there's
dissension in the ranks. Whatever ranks are left.
This group,
and there aren't many,
has withered away to be so pathetic. Here's everyone in the Aces and Eights right now. Bully Ray, Nux, Wes, and Garrett.
Yes.
That's all that's left.
That is the entire crew.
They must stick a knife in this angle. It's done. It's time to pull the plug.
It's dead. I could be wrong. But yes, it is Aces and Eights, Nux, Garrett, and Wes, a girl, and Bully Ray.
Uh-huh.
And, yeah. I don't know. I figure they're being disbanded. The big line was when Nux is doing his promo, and he says that you forgot the first rule of Aces and Eights. Bros before hoes. I was like, since when was that the first? All this whole thing's been about hoes everywhere.
That's actually true.
Every time I used to turn on Aces and Eights, there were hoes, as far as the eye can see. So apparently that was the first line. And by the way, if you're a guy, particularly a single guy, and you're going to enter a club, and the very first rule is bros before hoes, probably need to go to a different club. Because it ain't going to be any fun. So, yeah, Bully cut him down. Nux won't back down. And, yeah. I don't know how much longer this is going to last, because it seems to be dead to me.
Someone on Facebook put up a list of a bunch of funky maps, and it's like, here's there's the old Pangea continent with modern countries drawn on it, and then the map of the U.S. with each state resized by population, whatever. And there's one that's just a map of the U.S. with what appear to be random small bits shaded red, and then the map is just labeled area codes in which Ludacris claims to have hoes.
It's probably a pretty big map.
I tried to forward it to you, but I
now,
couldn't
wait a
get it to work
second.
on my phone.
The map has each state resized by...
I've seen that one before. Actually, that actually wasn't one of them.
Let me see that one. Send that one to me.
I don't know if I can find it right now. I'll try to find it here after I discuss this next segment.
All right.
Chavo, Guerrero, and Hernandez came out. They were introduced. The music played. They came out and posed. Then Gunstorm came out, and everyone was ready for a tag match. And suddenly, Chavo piped up and said, "Oh no, wait! I am hurt. I can't wrestle." Gunner said, "I want to fight. I'll fight Hernandez." And everyone said, "Cool." So, Gunner fought Hernandez. Earlier in the match, there were passionate chants of USA, which is funny because Hernandez is from Houston. And they settled down after that. It became a mean guy match. They hit some moves. Gunner hit that backbreaker that Sheamus used to use. I guess still does, or he would if he was healthy. And then he pinned him.
And he won.
That was it.
Yeah.
The champion pinned the challenger.
It's just kind of a There's two bulls bonking into each other for a while.
It was a mean guy match.
It was a mean guy match, yes.
Main event was, the main event wrestling match was Ego versus the main event Mafia, appropriately enough. Sting is still wrestling in a t-shirt, but he's losing a lot of weight, slimming down.
One more big run.
You would think. And then not only that, but he did not hide on the apron. They got the heat on him, so he was in there the whole time. Had a very good old-school tag team match. Joe made the big comeback. Broke down into a six-way. Sting put Daniels in the Scorpion, and things got strange. He put Daniels in the Scorpion. Rude went to hit Sting with the baseball bat, but Magnus jumped in the way, so he took the bat shot. So Magnus is lying on his back. Bobby Roode has hit him with a bat, and Bobby Roode is, I don't know, confused? Distressed?
I don't know. I couldn't figure this out.
I'm not sure
honestly.
He should have just shrugged and then pinned the man, which eventually he did. He pinned the man. So Ego won. Magnus took a bat shot for the team and got pinned. I smell a heel turn coming.
It's just weird because Rude, I mean, obviously what he was trying to do was he was trying to hit Sting with a bat. But before he could hit Sting with the bat, Magnus jumps in and covers Sting with his body. And so instead of hitting Sting, Rude hits Magnus. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh my God, I hit Magnus with a bat. It's like, well, you were going to hit Sting, right? And then he covers him and pins him. And then he gets up and he puts his hand over his mouth. He's so concerned. I had no idea what was going on here. I had an idea during this match. I figured Magnus must be turning, by the way. But if I ever run a pro wrestling, if I ever run WWE, which I won't, but let's just say, the first thing I would do is I would command the writing team every, let's say, 8 matches, whether they're tag team or singles, every 8 matches or so, I would do a deal where the finish takes place during the heat without a comeback. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I know this is not a revelation or anything like that, but when you watch this match, you knew it wasn't ending until Sting got the hot tag, right?
Right. So
you just kind of started zoning out after a while. Sting's getting beaten on. He's getting beaten on. He's getting beaten on. And you're like, all right, he's obviously going to make the hot tag, and then they're going to go to the finish. So if during the middle of this match, let's just say they got the heat on Joe, because he's not really doing anything right now despite being in main event Mafia. Let's say you got the heat on Joe, and he's selling, and he's selling, and he's selling. And you're sort of not paying attention at this point because it's every tag match you've ever seen. And all of a sudden, Joe gets pinned. You'd kind of wake up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you do this every, I don't know, maybe even do it every 6 weeks, you have a match where it ends during the heat. You do that, and all of a sudden, the heat's not so boring anymore because the match can end at any time. And in fact, they used to still do it every now and then in Japan. You'll have a match, and it'll end like 2.5 minutes in. The bell will ring, and in 2.5 minutes, you've got to finish. It's not a regular occurrence, but they do it every now and then to remind you that don't just get excited at the 18-minute mark. You should get excited right at the beginning because the finish can happen at any time. And I think they need to do that because, listen, at a taping like this, where everybody has already watched a full show, and now they're an hour and 45 minutes to another show, and you trot out these 6 guys, and the audience just sitting there, and nobody cares. I mean, to me, that's when you got to have this. You got to have the fans conditioned to thinking this could end at any time, because these fans were ready to fall asleep. And you had Sting out there, you had Joe, Magnus, Daniels, Rude, Kazarian, the whole 9 yards. And they're ready to fall asleep because you knew nothing was going to happen until Sting made that hot tag. You got to try and mix it up a little bit here and there, I think.
Then it was time for the main event promo. AJ Styles came out and immediately began to discuss how Dixie Carter was a shitty boss.
Yeah.
Said he had been fighting in a fairground in Nashville, trying to get this company off the ground. And then one day, Dixie's dad had bought out the company and put her in charge, even though she had no experience, no business running things. Fast forward a few years.
She broke up the chemistry.
Yeah, he was whining about that. Guys like Loki and Alex Shelley and P.D. Williams were fired.
Yeah.
So Dixie could hire MMA stars or guys like Christian, who he did not name, that's who he was talking about, who could show up, make big money doing nothing, and then leave.
I think he was talking about 18 people.
Probably, yeah. So he said his contract was up. He was going to win the title and then make Dixie beg and then make Dixie pay. Dixie came out.
You know what's funny about it is it was actually like a really good promo. If you're like not employed in TNA and you went to WWE and you're really pissed off about Dixie Carter, the idea that they would air this promo on the air, because it wasn't even like he was saying anything that wasn't true. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Her daddy bought the company. She did, in fact, have no experience. There is no Shelley, low-key, Petey, anybody like that.
Because,
as he's burying the company, the fans are cheering. Like, you're right, AJ. This does suck. She doesn't know what she's doing. And I was like, man, where the hell are you going with this? Because you're burying your company on the air, and your fan base is agreeing. Like when the NWO used to talk about how WCW sucked, and the fans are all cheering. Because, in fact, WCW did suck. And the NWA proved it every time they beat up WCW. I don't know if you guys remember, but that didn't end out very well. It ended poorly for WCW.
Yeah. So Dixie came out and she acted all apologetic.
Everybody booed.
She tried to, fake an apology, and then, of course, turned around and said, "I'm sorry I've let you go for this long." Said it had been many years since he's had a great match, and everything he had done. Yeah.
Jesus.
Do we even need to say this? I guess we do.
At least in that situation, that's a lie. He just had like a good match last week. But still, this is so dumb. Said he was a little better than average. In any pond, she said. So not just TNA. If he went to WWE, he'd be below average as well.
Uh-huh.
That's good. The phenomenal one is an illusion. It's a marketing gimmick. I'm sorry I ever allowed you to think that you're important. I built this house, me, Dixie Carter. You're lucky that you were able to play in it. And then, actually, there was more. You're barely the marginal one. You're not the phenomenal one.
Marginal one, by the way. If I make a comeback, that's my new nickname.
The marginal one?
The marginal one.
Yeah.
So.
The shrieking. My God, the shrieking.
So eventually, he started to talk, and she grabbed the headset off the cameraman and ordered AJ's mic shut off. Then she screamed, "The show is over!" And the lights in the building went out. And I've been to a lot of wrestling shows, a lot of shows in general when the lights go out. And I don't know what it is, but
they cheer.
They always cheer when the lights go out. Yeah. Not in TNA. They turned the lights off and everyone booed. The show ended.
I thought this segment was so phenomenally stupid.
Yeah.
So to speak. Like I said, AJ, hell of a promo. But you just buried the company. The fans all agreed with you.
Yes.
Dixie comes out and buries you. Meanwhile, you're headlining the pay-per-view, so that's great.
Which was not mentioned, by the way.
No.
In passing. He said
it was in passing, yeah. He's going to win the title and make her pay. But again, that's a storyline that he is in line for a title, and somehow this incompetent company has not signed him to a contract. That's the storyline. So they do all this stuff, and I will admit, as stupid as this segment was in a lot of ways, I did like when Dixie decides the show's over. So she cuts his mic, she tells the cameraman to shut it off, and she turns off all the lights. She ended the show. I thought that was good. It was rather coincidental that she ended it at 10:59.
As powerful statements go.
10:59 and 50 seconds. Yeah,
the show actually was over, yes.
Yeah. But I did like that when she turned off all the lights. That was good. Now, the question is, why are you turning the lights on next week then? Why is AJ going to be there? These are all questions for another day. But what a great storyline. Your place sucks. I'm going to win the title and hold you up for money. Otherwise, I'll leave.
The storyline is that your biggest star hates it there and wants to leave, and
yes.
you think your biggest star sucks.
Yeah.
We watched Impact, everyone. Dixie was walking backstage. Sting bumped into her. Couldn't believe what had happened at the end of the show last week. He wanted to know why she was fucking with AJ.
Me neither.
She told him not to worry about it. And she referred to herself in the third person. Dixie will take care of Dixie, I believe she said. Bully Ray came out to cut a promo. Talked about all the ways he was going to beat AJ, including when he said he was going to Bubba bomb him. At which point your wife entered the room and said, "Did that guy just say he was going to bubble butt the other guy?" And then before he could even answer, she said, "I'd like to see that." I don't want to see that.
She's the one.
At all. So Ray was talking about how Dixie made AJ a star. He was interrupted by his own gang. Please end this stable. Please eliminate them. We don't need to hear this music anymore.
It appears they're on the way.
We don't need any more vests. It's way too long.
They're not vests, Vinny. They're cuts.
That's one of the things I hate. So, they ran their mouths for a while. Nux called Brooke a hoe. Ray said don't call her a hoe. Fans all chanted hoe. So Ray warned them all to fall in line or he would get rid of them like he did with Anderson and Devon. And then he said the loser of the fall tonight would be fired.
Fired.
Actually, he said their lights would go out, which means fired.
My question is, they're all out there. There's 3 of them left, aside from Bully and his lass. And he's telling them, if you lose tonight, you're out of the club. And all I could think was, why the hell do these people want to be in the club in the first place?
That's actually a good one, too.
What are they getting out of this club? Speaking of strip clubs, remember when there used to be strippers at every Aces and Eights club meeting?
Yep.
I haven't seen a stripper in a long time.
Nope.
I haven't seen a backstage playing crabbage or cribbage or whatever. I said crabbage.
I believe you said crabbage.
That's what happened when the strippers were around. I haven't seen them backstage playing any games. They have not had any ladies back there. I don't know what they do.
Mostly
what do they do in this club?
As far as I can tell, they mope around, they bitch to each other, and fear for their jobs.
And they lose.
And they lose wrestling matches.
Now,
yes.
it was explained later in the show. Bully said, and I quote, "This is not what I pay you for." So apparently it's some sort of club where they're paid to be members by the president.
Yeah.
Hell of a club.
Joseph Park was about to shave backstage when Eric Young ran up and stopped him. So what would happen if you cut yourself shaving? There's civilians back here. And they agreed that there would be no more shaving for Joe Park on match days.
Well, he'll still be able to shave pretty regularly.
Yeah. Bromans and ODB, Bromans and Gail Kim versus Joseph Park and Eric Young and ODB. First of all, Joe Park came out after that pre-tape thing they probably did 6 hours before this, and he came out wiping shaving cream off his face.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So they got the heat on Park immediately. Jesse Goddard has an awfully sweet dropkick.
That's a pretty good dropkick.
You mentioned that. There's this point where he went for a sunset flip, and Park struggled and struggled and struggled, but then his eyes lit up, and he raised a finger, and he, as if to say, "I've got an idea." And he jumped straight up and tried to sit on Jesse, but Jesse moved out of the way. And Park's idea failed. They laughed, and they got the heat on Park for a long time. And Joe Park is like the biggest guy in the company and still a great babyface in peril. Crawling desperately to the corner, and eventually tagged in Eric Young. And Eric Young is really good when he's just wrestling, and he has honest-to-God wrestling gear now, too. Like trunks and boots and knee pads. I approve. And he ran wild, and the girls got involved in it for a bit, and ODB assaulted Robbie E with her enormous fake breasts, and then hit Jesse with a splash and a top rope elbow, and then ODB tagged in and pinned him.
Stupid question, but are they fake? She's awfully heavy.
I would bet heavily. Yeah, I would put the odds heavily on that she has fake breasts. I guess it's not impossible, but yeah.
I should note that when Joe Park came out, there are all these fans in the crowd that have Park, and Park towels that they were like. What the hell was that guy's name? Ricky O'Reilly towels? Remember that guy? Ricky Ortiz? He actually was on the show once. He was awesome. Beast Ortiz. Remember from Urban Wrestling?
Yeah, I do remember that. Apparently, there's a point in 2010 where she suffered a ruptured implant.
Oh, well, then that would suggest that she's got fake breasts.
I've seen reports of that everywhere.
But anyway, Park, and Park towels. Why do Park, and Park have towels?
Well, when you get
They're a
sweaty,
law firm.
when you get sweaty in the courtroom.
So they just hand them out to folks? I don't have a problem with it. I just thought it was kind of funny.
Well, I think every place in
Let's
the world,
rally people around this law firm.
and when you're doing advertising for your company, everyone in the world has ballpoint pens or refrigerator magnets. Do something unique. Get a towel.
Well, I can't argue that.
By the way, one of the places with stories on a report of ODB and her breast implants is breastenlargementbuzz.com.
Breast enlargement buzz.
It's the buzz that really makes it.
Did you open up this page to check it out?
No, but the Google description begins with the words, simple herbs can work as well. So I'm assuming it's just a giant ad.
All right, hold on. What's it called?
Breastenlargementbuzz.com.
I can't believe that someone actually bought this URL.
Well, you're clicking it. It worked.
There it is. Natural breast enlargement discussion. What is natural breast enlargement? Oh, actually, it explains right here. Natural breast enlargement is really a fantasy, come a fact, for several women attempting to avoid painful medical procedures. This is terribly written.
You don't say.
Society, as well as the press, made women self-conscious about their really own body. The press shows women along with perfect breasts.
What?
Natural breast enlargement is ideal for women who need just a small boost to sense well-educated. Women tend to be constantly comparing on their own some other females whether or not really she actually is a celebrity,
All right, stop. I can take no more.
neighbors, or unknown person passing by in the mall. Did you know, Vinny? Breasts are among the actual first comparisons which women can make between herself as well as another lady. Really?
You're going to read the whole thing, aren't you?
No.
Okay.
It's too many words. But talks about breast enlargement creams, breast enlargement pills, a breast enlargement workout, and then finally, breast enlargement creams or even breast implants. This website sucks.
Well, I'm sorry you're disappointed.
Wow. And not even one naked breast. I should add that breastenlargementbuzz.com has a privacy policy and terms of use. Wow, what a terms of use.
Is it as incoherent as the rest of it?
It includes a line, you may not create a link to this website from another website or document without Breast Enlargement Buzz's prior written consent.
Don't link to us?
So apparently I may be in trouble for even acknowledging this website.
Perhaps.
I am simply reporting facts as a news reporter. I've heard enough. I don't see anything on here about ODB's boobs, though.
There's a slash, and then does ODB have breast implants?
I do love that breastenlargementbuzz.com goes to this description, this descriptive page here, talking about all these creams and everything.
Uh-huh.
And then down at the very bottom, it says, related articles, breast enlargement buzz. And when you click on it, it takes you back to the exact same page.
Yeah. When I clicked on the story I had, it just goes to something called breastactives.com. Which
Breast Actives?
Yes. That's what it says.
Check this out now. Wow. This is way different. Oh, this is a product.
Yeah.
How about that? A 3-step natural enhancement system using only all-natural ingredients. There are pills and creams which can help you develop, Vinny, the shapely curves that you're after.
Excellent.
Wow.
There's before and after photos down at the bottom of that page. And there's a photo, and then it says in letters clear as day, stock photos. Also, results not typical.
Oh, my God. They're trying so hard to sell these pills and this cream that they've got a thing down here at the bottom that says, it's a link to CBS. Women who get breast implants are more likely than other women to commit suicide. So in other words, buy their product or you could die.
Yes.
It's not very nice. All right.
Oh, that was fun. How the fuck were we? Babyface won that match.
That's where we were.
Yeah. Hogan was backstage saying he was going to fix all this crap, which he has in fact been saying for 4 years. Austin Aries came out for a promo and was talking about how last year he was in the main event of Bound for Glory, and this year, whatever match he was in was going to be the main event. And he started to talk about his goals for this year when Kenny King came out. And for about an hour, Kenny King spoke.
He actually did a good promo.
I
thought.
I was desperate for him to get to the point.
It did take him a while.
And the point was that...
The point was that his music is music to his ears.
He did say that.
That's what he said.
He pointed out that Austin Aries had dressed up like Manic and beaten him in a match to win the X Division title a few months ago. True.
Which iced out Kenny King from getting a rematch for the belt.
That's right. So he was mad at Aries. So Aries challenged him to a fight. King said, not right now. Aries said, yes, right now. And the referee agreed in the end of the match. So that all happened before the break. When they came back from the break, Kenny King was bleeding everywhere.
Yes, from the head.
From the head. And it's kind of I don't know if it's a joke in wrestling, but you always hear about back when guys would blade routinely, you hear about a black guy bleeding, and you'd ask why, because it does not show up as well on dark skin as it does on white skin. Kenny King was bleeding everywhere. You could see it everywhere. It was in his hair. It was running down his face. He was a mess. So they just worked around it. He just bled a lot. And eventually they had a fun match, and Aries won with the corner dropkick and a brainbuster.
Yep. Good match.
It was a thumbs up. Chris Sabin and Velvet Sky congratulated Aries backstage. Sabin started bragging about his title win, and Aries said, all that happened was you got beat up for 15 minutes, and then you hit a guy with a hammer. True! That's what happened. Sabin vowed to win the X title tonight.
This segment so annoyed me. This is like typical TNA that we've seen for years. You've got Chris Sabin and Velvet Sky, who all of a sudden, out of nowhere on television, were suddenly together, right?
Uh-huh.
One week they're just together. And we later find out that they've been together for a long time, according to the storyline. How long ago was this? Month?
About that, yeah.
So it's been about a month that they've been together on television, and already Velvet Sky is annoyed with Chris Sabin.
Sure.
I mean, I don't even know why I'm bothering to explain this, but why would we care about their relationship being on the rocks if they've been together for a month? Do people forget that Randy Savage and Elizabeth were not together for a month before everything went down in their relationship with Hulk Hogan? They've been together for years. You don't care about two people breaking up when they just got together. This happens all the time in this company. Guys get together, maybe it's a tag team, maybe it's a relationship. Next thing you know, they're breaking up. There was more to come in the storyline, by the way.
Indeed. They were, first I got ahead of myself. The Main Event Mafia had a meeting backstage. Magnus was tense, and they were trying to get him to relax.
Again, how long has Magnus been in the Main Event Mafia? A few months?
Not more than 3 months.
Already getting ready to break up.
Yeah. Hulkster came out for a promo.
What a reaction.
The people of Arkansas loved this man.
Just went crazy for him forever.
Mm-hmm. He said nobody in this business should air dirty laundry in public. Asked the fans if they wanted to cheer for he asked the fans if they wanted to... Jesus Christ. He asked the fans... I'm still struggling with that overcoming speech thing. He asked the fans if they wanted AJ to stay with the company, and they all cheered. He got them all to chant AJ's name. And he said, AJ's in the back. I know he's listening to all this, and I'm going to go backstage, and I'm going to fix everything. And he left.
I loved when he came out. They found a very, very excited fan, and they zoomed in on him, and he's wearing a Daniel Bryan shirt. You couldn't find any fan wearing a TNA shirt?
Nope. No, you could not.
And then we would be remiss if we did not mention Taz.
That is just what I was going to get to.
All right.
So they're about to go to break, and they go to Taz and TNA to recap what's going on. And
So awesome.
TNA points out that the Aces and Eights are down to 4 guys, I guess plus Taz. I forgot about him. But Taz says, listen, TNA, as far as we're concerned, it's all about quantity over... Wait. And he corrected himself, quality over quantity, and then for the next 10 to 15 seconds of TV time, he tried so hard not to laugh.
Yes.
And TNA, I don't know if he was helping or not. TNA just went on with the plug and moved on, and then he shot Taz a Mike TNA look.
Yes.
One of the best parts of the show.
Taz just he knew he screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
He just corrected himself.
Right.
And he just moved on with his life.
Yes.
Because it doesn't matter.
Yeah. That is correct.
3 words, Tanae. I got 3 words. Quality over quantity. And then Mike Tenay was right on the ball. He jumped right in and said, well, quantity is one thing you don't have right now.
He is a pro.
It's that's pretty good. Poor Taz. Manic and Saban.
They had a hype video of her Kurt Angle's return to Bound for Glory. Tried to interview AJ backstage. He said he was willing to hear Hogan out. And he said he would see Hogan out there. Then we got Manic and Saban.
By the way, why couldn't Hogan just talk to AJ when he was out there the first time?
No, because they wanted to drag it out over several segments.
I see.
I don't have a better answer than that. Manic and Saban were out there. Yeah, they had a match. And this annoyed me way more than their interview did.
You were very annoyed by this match.
I was very annoyed by this match.
I just found it to be hilariously wacky. Like the slingshot into the corner.
Well, that was by the end. But when the point Saban knew it sucked and had given up. You've mentioned, in fact, this is one of your pet peeves. If you're going to do a distraction or something to get the heat, get the fucking heat with it. I guess there's other times when there's been the distraction and then it doesn't work, so you do another distraction.
Yes.
That's more annoying. Yeah. I'll agree with that. But Saban takes a bump and he grabs his knee. And, of course, he's shredded both his ACLs in the past. And he's out on the floor, grabbing his knee, moaning in pain, limping around. And Velvet is very concerned, and she goes over to check on him, and he says, I need your help to get to the back. And he puts his arm over her shoulder, and she's helping him walk along the apron. And Manic, like a dumbass, goes up to see what's going on. And Saban shoves Velvet into him and distracts Manic, and Saban comes off the apron with a kick. That drops him, and Saban starts showing off on his leg. He's doing one-legged Hindu squats, and Taz is marking out for us. So, okay. So the heels pulled a dastardly trick to get the advantage in the babyface. This should be a big key point in the match. So they go back inside, and within 15 seconds of actual wrestling, not only was Manic on offense, but he put him in a submission hold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ref kept falling down, I think just because he was clumsy. Saban, as noted, took a hysterical bump for a slingshot. Where
Manic went for the slingshot, and he, I don't know what happened, but he only gave Saban enough to stand straight up.
Yes.
And so he goes for the slingshot. Saban has enough momentum or whatever to end up just barely in an upright standing position. And then he proceeded like the Machine years ago in WCW in a famous match with Diamond Dallas Page. Mm-hmm. He proceeds to stand there for a moment and then leap with his arms and legs outstretched like a frog and smash into the top turnbuckle.
It's his arms that really made it great.
Yes.
He went flying forward with his arms stretched out over his head like he was attempting to fly.
Yes. By the way, I got to tell this story. Speaking of frogs. So, Art Bell has a new show.
I've heard.
On Sirius 104, Indie Talk, Monday through Thursday, 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. Don't even bother listening to this show if that show's on. Just go listen to the real show. But anyway, he has Richard C. Hoagland on, a classic Art Bell guest. This is the guy that is convinced that there's a face and ancient structures on Mars and the moon.
Okay, yeah.
Who admits everyone thinks he's crazy. But it was actually a great show with Richard Hoagland. But Hoagland sends a bunch of pictures to Art's website because he wants the people to look at these pictures and determine if they believe that these are rocks or fuel pumps.
Those are the only options?
Basically.
Well,
I
actually,
voted rocks.
I think so, actually.
But he was trying to convince people that these were ancient fuel pumps on Mars. Anyway, so I'm on Art Bell's website, and I'm scrolling down the pictures. And, like, there's a picture of the moon. There's a picture of a rock that's supposedly a fuel pump. And then you scroll down a little farther, and he's got a picture of a rocket taking off from the Earth. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the camera's down below, and you see like the big giant plume of smoke and fire, and this rocket is taken off towards the moon or the Mars or whatever. And in the upper left-hand corner of the screen is a frog.
Oh, right.
Apparently, have you seen this?
I think you linked to it. I didn't see I saw a frame shot, a screen
This
capture.
frog is being shot into the atmosphere by this launch. And I can laugh about it because they believe the frog survived. I'm skeptical upon seeing this picture. But this frog looks exactly like Chris Sabin when he took this bump into the turnbuckle.
Hang on a second here.
I'm going to find the picture right now.
That's what I do.
I'm going to find it and I'm going to send it to you.
Frog rocket
Yeah, type in frog
launch.
rocket launch. See if it comes up. If it doesn't, I'm going to find it here.
Yep.
You found it?
Confirm that is in fact what Chris Sabin looked like.
Is that not awesome? Look at that poor little frog.
I also like, by the way, another one where a spider climbed on the camera lens, so it appears an enormous arachnid is attacking the space shuttle.
Yes. That poor little frog.
Frog photobomb.
Is that what it says? Frog photobomb?
That's one headline.
Hold on. Search tools.
Giant leap for frog kind.
Let me do a search. There it is. Look at that. Look at that poor little bugger. Look at that poor little guy. Just flying through the air.
Yep.
There's barely a video.
How the hell do they know he survived?
I think they're just saying that because everyone's laughing at the frog. They don't want to make it a tragedy. Look at this. There's even a picture of the frog on Fox. It's just the most amazing photograph. Way better than the fuel pump. All right, let's move on.
So, we're not done with the match yet, by the way. Manic goes for a submission hold.
It ends up on Mars. No.
Sabin is crawling for the ropes. He goes right past the ropes, and he grabs Velvet's hand. He drags her into the ring against her wishes. Then he hides behind her in the corner. Then as she's standing in the corner, he runs out and he hits Manic with a roll-up. But then Manic counters the roll-up, and as Velvet is standing in the corner, the referee counts 3 and Manic wins. So then Sabin started attacking Manic after the match. Then Aries ran down to make the save, and Sabin hid behind Velvet again.
And Velvet, Velvel Holler, by the way, on Twitter, is just appalled at her boyfriend.
Yep.
After a month.
Yes. Aces and Eights cut a promo backstage. Whispersco, in particular, was terrible here. Our club is crumbling, he said. What is going on?
You tell me, dude. What is going on with this club?
Same shit's going on for about 6 months. They agreed they could not afford to lose anyone else. True.
Well, I mean, they could lose at least 3 more people.
You have a club with one person? I guess if Taz is there.
Yeah.
All right.
Bully and Taz and the girl.
Oh, there's the girl, yeah.
Sounds like a hell of a club, actually.
Bad Influence watched the Kurt Angle video. They were all appalled that he was going to the Hall of Fame ahead of them. And
where were they 6 months ago when this was announced?
I don't know. And then Daniels and Kazarian began to do an evil cackle, and they tried to get Rude to join in, but he just shook his head and walked away. Main event had, appropriately, the Main Event Mafia against Nux and Weston Garrett. Fans immediately, loudly said they wanted Sting.
Yes.
The only 2 stars in the show were Hulk Hogan and Sting. It's the stars TNA has managed to build in the past 10 plus years.
For the moment.
Right. So they're wrestling. Magnus and Garrett are. And Garrett comes off the ropes, and Magnus kind of catches him and throws him. And I think Garrett was supposed to hit a DDT. It may have been that Magnus was trying to slam him. I don't know. But either way, it looked like Garrett about knocked his own head off.
Everyone imagine you're lying on your back and you point your feet straight up in the air and you put your hands out to the side. That's how you normally take a bump. You land on your back and your feet are in the air. Now, imagine you're flat on your back and you're just flat on your back. Your arms and legs, everything is flat on the ground.
Yes.
That is how he took this bump. It looked so uncomfortable. I thought he was dead. And then he was back in about 30 seconds later, so he was fine. But at the moment, I thought, this dude's knocked out.
Yeah. So, Magnus went up top. The guys in Ego all ran down, shut it off the top rope, and ran away. And then the bad guys used that distraction to attack Sting. So you had Sting in the ring getting worked over, Magnus on the floor selling, and Joe alone in the corner.
And then Joe gives the dreaded X, and they got rid of Magnus. Did you see him give the dreaded X?
I missed that part.
Right before commercial, he gave the dreaded X, and they came and got rid of Magnus.
So they got the heat on Sting. And eventually Joe got a hot tag. He ran wild, and Sting ran in, hit a bunch of stinger splashes, and then Joe grabbed Wes and put him in the choke, and Wes tapped out.
At which point, Taz acknowledged, we may have a problem.
So Joe and Sting left. It's just down to the Aces and Eights guys. And Ray came out. He was very angry with Wes. He demanded that he take off his cut.
His cut.
It's a fucking vest. So Wes wouldn't do it. So Ray ordered Garrett and Nux to take it off for him, and they refused as well.
Got to stand up for your brothers.
Except you don't when Bully Ray is clotheslining and pile driving him.
Yes.
They let this happen.
There's tremendous heat for this, by the way. Tremendous heat.
So what you had here was Bully Ray laying out Wes and then threatening to hurt him more unless he took the jacket off. And so Nux and Garrett were doing evil things reluctantly, just like the Big Show. That's exactly what this came off at, like a complete Big Show ripoff. They took the vest off and they gave it to Ray. Eventually, it took a long time, and that was it. So the roll call of the Aces and Eights are one wrestler, one announcer, one girl, and two pissed off guys.
Yep,
who don't want to be there.
I actually thought this was a great segment. The heat was great. And it's kind of funny because, like, just goes to show that if you do a long-term storyline, even if it's not the best storyline in the world, and believe me, Aces and Eights is not the best storyline in the world.
Oh, no.
But you do it long enough, and you just keep on keeping on, and you get to a segment like this, and the people... I could not believe how much the people were into this. Bully is asking him to take off his jacket, and the fans are chanting, no, no, no.
Yeah, chanting, no, no, no.
Don't take it off. Oh,
Brian.
my God, I can't believe this.
They were not chanting for Wes Briscoe.
But they kind of were. It was amazing. Like, they were into this angle. So, more power to them. I also like that only in TNA, they bring these guys from WWE. They got to change all their names. And nobody in TNA can seem to remember what their names are. Bully keeps calling him Nux. Is that right? No, Nuxie. Yeah. Nuxie. Yeah. Actually, I apologize for my rant because that is his name. It was Nox in WWE.
It was Nox with an O in WWE.
All right.
It's Nux in TNA, but they didn't make that clear, and it took us like 3 months to figure that out.
It did take me a while to figure that out. Now they do keep calling him Bubba. There are several people that keep calling him Bubba, and it's supposed to be Bully.
That's
but
true.
I apologize. They are doing it right with Nux.
So it's time for the main event segment. Hogan came out, called out AJ. AJ came out. Hulk said, you got a title shot coming up. I can't have a champion without a contract. Sign this contract, please.
And what do you think AJ said, everybody? He said, all right.
Yep. He looked insulted and offended for about 4 seconds. Then he signed it and said, I'm yours.
Yep. What a rebel.
And I thought... I didn't know if he had signed, but when I first heard him say this, I thought he said, up yours. Like he had refused to sign.
I'm confused because wasn't the whole point of last week's angle that He's very disgruntled.
Mm-hmm.
He's very upset at Dixie.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's going to hold her up for like millions of dollars.
The point of last week's promo is that TNA is a horrible company to work for.
But that was his idea, right? He said, I'm going to hold you up for money.
Yeah.
And so after he said he was going to hold her up for money, she came into the ring and buried him.
Right.
So somehow that led to him coming out this week and immediately agreeing to re-sign with the company?
Yes.
Just because Hulk Hogan asked him?
Right.
Huh.
Well, you know what? In fairness, we didn't read the contract.
That is true. It could have been for billions of dollars.
It increased the salary tenfold for all we know.
It should have been a blank contract with $1 billion written on it in giant letters.
Yeah, he shouldn't have had a contract. He should have had one of those big giant game show checks.
Yes.
Or even better, just a giant canvas sack with a dollar sign on the side.
Yes.
Just a bag full of money.
Yes.
We should have a company.
We may soon.
This one may be available.
If WCW was sold for $2.5 million, I'll bet I could get this for $250,000. I'm sure I could do a Kickstarter and buy TNA.
Oh, Christ. All right. So AJ signed the contract. Happily employed man. Then Dixie came out and said, Hulk, you just work here. And you're just an employee. And you may value AJ, but I don't. And she tore up AJ's contract, told him to leave, and AJ did.
There's nothing like the storyline where you've got a heel owner who has no eye for talent. You know what I mean?
Dude, this whole...
You find AJ Styles marginal in storyline.
Yeah.
You, Dixie Carter, find AJ marginal, and you're fine with him leaving your company.
Yeah.
There's between being a heel and being an idiot. I think.
It should be. Yeah, this is very stupid. This is very, 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 very stupid.
She tore it up, and he said she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. Mm-hmm. She told him to get out of the ring. And then, what do you think AJ did when she said, get out of my ring? If you guessed he got out of her ring, you were correct.
So this left Dixie and Hulk alone. Hulk was very confused. Dixie said Hulk was not happy with her. The fans were not happy with her, but they didn't understand her life. She began to bury people who attacked her on Twitter.
This caused Hulk Hogan to shake his head.
Hulk Hogan just buried his face in his hands. Hulk was awesome here. Then Dixie started talking about being part of the 1%. Now the 99% did not know how hard it was to be her. And she said she's going to give Hulk a week to think about things. Either he wants to be on her team or he can lose his job. So that's how Impact ended. Not with AJ Styles and Bully Ray, not with any other wrestlers, but with two 50-year-old rich people arguing about who has more power.
She knows he'll make the right decision. Do you know how next week's show ends?
I don't.
I'm going to do a spoiler, everybody. If you don't want to hear it, just fast forward a while. Next week's show ends with the Hulkster deciding he doesn't want to be on Team Dixie. And so he quits. And so she gets on her knees and she hugs his leg and begs him not to leave, crying and weeping. And this builds up Bound for Glory. How? I don't know.
Is there a pool for how long this company will last? I guess
there was one 11 years ago.
Yeah. This is so fucking stupid.
Vinny's lost his mind, everybody.
And you know what's sad? This is not in the bottom 10% of Impact things I've...
No. This show was fine for the most part.
This show, compared to the history of Impact Wrestling, was above average.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, when I buy TNA for $250,000, I'm not going to employ Eric Bischoff. Or Hulk Hogan.
No.
Unless Hogan agrees to come in for free. Then we'll talk. I'll plug his new restaurant.